morning to you, Mr. Duncan Smith. And is this, picking up on what Norman was saying, is this a no-deal cabinet, do you think?
Well, I think it's best described as a leave by the 31st of October cabinet, of which the stream of work that needs to take place preparing for departure without a deal is a critical component. But obviously they would like to reach some arrangement with the EU, not the withdrawal agreement as it stands. That is dead. Boris has said that clearly. But there are other arrangements that can be made to so that both the EU and the UK depart in a managed way and don't end up with tariffs and regulatory rows going on afterwards. And that is wholly feasible. But you don't get one without the other. And the other is you've got to prepare for no-deal Brexit. You've got to prepare to leave. There are lots of mini-deals. The no-deal is a terrible phrase. Lots of mini-deals that are in existence to get various things done. There are 17 at the moment already, things like medicines and landing rights and cabotage, where trucks can pick up goods in one country and then go to another country. Those deals are already pretty much agreed and need to be ratified, and there are more to be done. So it's not no deal in the sense that you walk away and never speak to each other again. It's managing that process, which is critical.
But it's potentially no deal as compared to a much closer relationship, isn't it?
Well, it depends what you mean by that. Withdrawal agreement was a bad deal because it would have locked us into the EU as a rule taker for a considerable amount of time, with no real absolute assurance that we would have ever have actually left that authority. Now, that was not what the British people voted for when they said leave. What they mean by leave is you're not under the European Court of Justice, take back control of your laws, your borders and your money. So all of that meant that that died after the third time of being voted down.
But that's still the only deal in town, really, as far as the EU is concerned, isn't it? We haven't really heard any serious suggestions from the EU that there could be a significant renegotiation of the deal that Theresa May was trying to get through.
And I don't think a significant renegotiation of the deal, by the way, is going to happen. By no means do I think that to be the case. I think that the EU has decided that, by and large, this deal is what they themselves like. So they probably won't want to deeply renegotiate this, which is why I don't think it's worth wasting time saying to the EU, why don't we have a big renegotiation? I think the key thing here is what they should be talking to them about is, okay, you accept now, you should accept that we are leaving by the 31st of October. So what we want to know from you, the EU, and you should know from us, is what does that look like as we go out, and how do we then minimize any of the impacts to businesses on both sides of the channel and to individuals too. And that means reaching agreement as we head towards free trade, which is the objective of the Boris Johnson government. But the in-between bit about stabilisation, standstills on things like tariffs, etc., which are wholly feasible, these sort of things now need to be thrashed out with the EU so that there is an arrangement.
When Boris Johnson spoke after winning the leadership contest, he talked a lot about unity, didn't he? Do you think that the makeup of the cabinet, as heavily weighted as it is towards Brexiteers, is actually the sort of cabinet that is going to deliver the unity he talked about?
Well, I think the cabinet will certainly be united, no question. And of course, nobody is glossing over the fact that there are people in the Conservative Party, there are in all parties, everyone is divided over these issues, and there are people in the Conservative Party who don't believe that we should leave without a deal and are deeply concerned about it, and I don't have any problem with that. The key question, though, is, look, the default mechanism for the EU, for the UK right now, is that it is law. It is already law, passed into law, that we leave, as adjusted now, for the 31st of October. So
but you say, if I may interrupt, Mr. Duncan Smith, there will be unity, you believe, in the cabinet, but is there going to be unity in the Conservative Party, or will members of the Conservative Party seek to thwart the cabinet if it tries to push through a no-deal Brexit? I mean, that is a distinct possibility, isn't it?
Well, I was just trying to explain that before you interjected. It is law that we leave by the 31st of October, full stop. The Article 50 comes to an end on the 31st of October. We are out. That is European Union law, by the way, and we have embodied and enshrined that date in UK law. So that means unless that law, that date, is changed, and it would have to be changed by legislation, then no matter what happens, we are leaving. So that is the key question. So now the only thing that would create a problem I say the only thing, there are lots of things that create problems, but the biggest thing is if there was a vote of confidence. Now, it's up to my colleagues in Parliament whether or not they support their government. It is almost unheard of to vote against your government in a vote of confidence because the subsequent election, therefore, means that you run a risk at this stage of putting the other side in this case, Jeremy Corbyn and his Marxists. So the idea is that they will face big pressure, but I can't predict what will happen. All I can say is, right now, the law is that we leave by the 31st of October, and we'd like to get an arrangement, but if we don't, that's the law.
As you say, we are in extraordinary political times. Just finally, very briefly, having run Boris Johnson's leadership campaign, what's next for you?
Well, I was asked by Boris Johnson to come in and get the second phase running, which we did, brought some people in, and I think the results speak for themselves. 2/3 of the party then voted for him. I'm quite happy with that. I stepped away towards the end of last week when it was clear and obvious the campaign was over. I'm very happy to get on campaigning to ensure that we leave the European Union on that date, because if we don't, I've said constantly to my colleagues, all this rowing just ceases to be of any importance at all.
Disappointed, though, not to be in this cabinet?
No, not in the slightest bit. I never asked to be in the cabinet. I've done 6 years in cabinet. I was leader of the Conservative Party. I head up a wonderful organisation called the Centre for Social Justice, which I started, which, by the way, was voted Think Tank of the Year by Prospect magazine. Thanks for the promotion. But a very good thing. And I'm doing a lot, therefore. So I'm not in the slightest bit bothered about that. I never asked for it, and I didn't expect it. But I do know that what I had hoped for and expected was that Boris Johnson would be focused on leaving, because it's the indecision around this which is causing the problems. It's not leaving, it's businesses not knowing whether we're leaving or not, which is causing the holdback of investment. Money will come through once we leave, because they will know what they're investing in and why, and I think that's the key element.
Iain Duncan Smith, thank you very much.